The Beatles hit the U.S. media in 1964 on The Ed Sullivan Show, but the public knew they were coming. How, you might ask? They were such a hit with the British news outlets that in 1963, Hunter Breakley of the NBC Nightly News had already been talking about them in front of an estimated 4 million Americans. Mass media promotion at its finest. And that was all it took. The Beatles were essentially advertised. Within 6 months of the Ed Sullivan Show, America was in full swing Beatlemania. Remember, the Ed Sullivan Show's guests were often paid by PR specialists, advertisers, music managers, and promoters to help their clients become national hits. How would the world have been if in 1963 the media had never spoke or featured the Beatles on TV? Would we, as a culture, ever have dressed like the Beatles or rushed to buy their albums? The media gave a platform to the Beatles, which changed culture and the music industry forever. The Beatles managers used strategic media campaigns to bring them into the public's attention. By 1956, 75% of Americans had a television in their homes. TV was the golden standard for advertisers for many years because of the large captive audience. Most advertisers knew that all they had to do was create enough buzz on TV for any product, musician, actress, vehicle, or invention to get the consumers to want to get involved. TV has a unique ability to allow storytelling to be both visual and audible. The moving object on the screen was mesmerizing, and advertisers came in droves to buy up ad space. Initially, TV shows were made with the help of advertisers. Next, ad space was sold nationally in slots from the network, with space being kept for their own network shows. Over time, local channels were developed, and local advertisers could buy spots in 15 or 30 seconds. Usually there were enough for 3 to 6 spots per show. After the rest of the spots were bought up by the network and the national advertisers, which both got priority. As new media was beginning to develop and thrive, older media platforms went through growing pains. Newspapers had a huge monopoly on the market as 85% of Americans read newspapers weekly. They were inexpensive and quick to print, which made newspapers well suited for daily news. Newspapers were great for advertisers, having weekly sales in their local stores. Unfortunately for newspapers, TV's popularity made many advertisers leave print. But that was short-lived because newspapers had a different quality and often had an audience that would clip ads to keep a reminder of an advertisement. That is until the expansion of the internet, which has now permanently depressed the newspaper's ability to afford printing, forcing most newspapers online along with their advertisers. Radio became incredibly popular after World War I and remains so today. Radio has been proven to be a great route for advertisers that want to make their phone ring. This is because of the quality of the audience as they listen to radio. Radio also lost advertising dollars to TV, but many eventually came back because radio had proven that listening to information opposed to watching information is more sustained long-term engagement. Radio also has networks that can help advertisers reach a national audience and also a local audience. Radio advertising was the most important tool for musicians looking to make it in the musical industry, and many disc jockeys were known for pay-for-play endorsement deals from musicians' managers. Magazines continue to have great success throughout the 1900s, up until the internet expansion in the 1990s. This is because the magazine business model relied heavily on the public purchasing subscriptions, and the internet sharing created a problem. Magazines saw subscriptions go down month after month to the point many magazines closed down. With the internet information being shared more freely, and magazines began to adapt by creating content which search engines would put at the top of the search. This top of search ability encouraged advertisers to continue to place ads with them. So even through the fear, many of the strong magazine survived, and many targeted magazine publications have thrived. Magazines offer advertisers a targeted, loyal audience. Next to shake up media was the explosion of paid TV called cable TV. Consumers were no longer subjected to broadcast TV producers' rules. Consumers had more choices and more targeted TV programs, which advertisers loved. Would you want to be featured on a cooking network if your product was a new mixer? Cable TV also brought in the DVR era, which scared advertisers like all new media does. But they found a way to keep their reach by paying more money for advertising on programs where people tended to watch live TV like sports. Up until the explosion of the internet, most traditional media was ruled by the so-called gatekeepers. These gatekeepers may not have been able to make the public think a specific way about an advertisement or story, but they did have the ability to tell the public what to think about. Imagine if most major news outlets spent the weekend on stories about air balloons. They could allow a variety of stories, such as the history of air balloons, the danger of air balloons, and the cost to ride in an air balloon. The public may form their own ideas about air balloons, but I guarantee you they'd be thinking about air balloons. By 1996, the internet was a full-on media platform, and desktop computers became more common as they were finally affordable for the public. All traditional media was afraid of advertisers as they began to reallocate their dollars and invest on online advertisements, with dreams of reaching new captive audiences. All through the early 2000s up until 2017, most advertisers you talk to would say 1/2 to 3/4 of their advertising budget was reserved for online ads. But things once again began to balance. Many companies, including companies like Facebook, are buying TV and radio advertisements, and many other companies, including local home good companies, are going back to print. Tastemakers are the individuals that spur others to try new styles and new looks. And with the availability of the internet and social sites like YouTube and Facebook, tastemakers had the access to mass media without gatekeepers. For the first time, tastemakers didn't have to get access from the gatekeepers to access a fan base, and thus influencers are currently living in their heyday. Tastemakers are now able to partner with advertisers on their own and to make money by allowing their audience to be sold at a cost.